Hi everybody, now for my next, video. Like I mentioned in the last video, this isn't exactly a quote-unquote movie review. This is just, something like I've done in a few earlier videos, talk about a TV show that, I've seen. Well, before I talk about this, I did kind of use Wikipedia on this one also, just because I needed, certain information that I knew Wikipedia had, because I couldn't remember the exact dates and stuff, and its location and everything. What it is I'm going to talk about here TV show that I used to watch right around the time I married Tony. I want to talk about the TV show Family Plots, which used to be on A&E. The TV show Family Plots ran from April of 2004 through May 2006. First, I'm going to talk about the show itself and the basic workings of it. Granted, I want to leave certain people's names out, and it's nothing against them. It's just I want to talk about these certain people just because of my thoughts on them, and then I'll talk about other things related to it. Now, here's the basis of the show. The show was, of course, a reality show that centered around the funeral home called Poway Bernardo Mortuary, which at the time of the show is located in Poway, California. And from what I've seen on Wikipedia and the links attached to it, it's still in Poway, California to this day. And as a side note, and I might mention this again later, the people that were running the funeral home during the show's airing aren't there now for various reasons. Well, the show itself centered on the folks that ran the funeral home back in 2004 through 2006, and it namely dealt with the doings of the employees as it related to the management and each other and the clients or the customers of the funeral home. And mainly it focused on the last name of the family was the Wismillers, and and the interactions between the family and I mentioned the owners and everything and the clients and stuff. Well, there was of course the dad, Chuck Wismiller, and his three girls, Shauna, Emily, and Melissa. Chuck he was the person that went and got the deceased from different places like the hospital or the morgue or whatever, and take them over to the funeral home. So his daughter Shauna, who was the lucky person to have the fun job of embalmer, and then the two sisters, Emily and Melissa, who did the pay office work, which they scheduled pickups, answered the phone, helped arrange the funerals and stuff scheduling as far as that goes. And payments and stuff and billing. Well, as after the show ended, and this is what Wikipedia basically said about them, Chuck Wismiller, who was an ex-boxer, he retired from the actual funeral home so he could go train boxers full time. Of course, as I mentioned, Chuck was a boxer once upon a time and loved it. And during the show, he kind of had boxing-related issues with his head. You could tell he'd been hit in the head one too many times. He'd be every once in a while. Not that I'm bashing him or anything. I'm not. I'm just saying, that you could tell every once in a while he'd have something where you're like, really? Or his kids were like, really, Dad? Shauna, isn't with the funeral home anymore either, as I mentioned. She, according to Wikipedia, retired early. Wikipedia didn't elaborate on what she was doing. Not that I wish to know. If she wanted us to know, I'm sure she'd have said something. Chuck's other two daughters, Emily and Melissa, also left the show to do other things as well. From what I'm remembering of the show, either Emily or Melissa, and I can't remember which one offhand, was dating the owner. And I forget the owner's name offhand right now, too. But when Emily or Melissa, whoever it was, broke up with the owner of the funeral home towards the end of the series, both girls just were like, forget it, we're out of here. We can't, they were like, well, actually, the one sister basically got fired because the owner was like, look, I just don't want you here because it's like, it made an uncomfortable work environment for everybody, for both her and him. And I can understand why that happened. I mean, granted, it wasn't fair, but, such is life. The other sister just couldn't take being in the same room as the owner slash ex-boyfriend. So they both just left. Well, you know, the dad Chuck, every once in a while, like he'd get emotional when he's picking up the bodies and stuff, and I always felt bad for him because he was just like, felt sorry for some of the folks. I mean, and it's like I can't imagine being in his shoes. The one that I just was like, I almost couldn't bring myself to do her job is Shauna. Shauna was actually the one person out of that entire bunch that I really, really wanted to meet, just because she was no nonsense, and she just was the kind of person that, in my opinion, she had the hardest job in the building. Even the owner admitted that Shauna's job was hard because he said, like, I can't imagine having to be back there day in and day out embalming folks every day and getting them washed and prepped for funeral and everything, getting them done. He's like, well, I've done that before. I remember him saying this on the show. He's like, well, I've had to do that before because she took like a vacation or something. And he's like, I cannot just bring myself to do that. He's like, that is the hardest job here. And I agree. I think that would be the hardest job in any funeral home, just because, it's like, granted, they're dead and they can't feel anything. But, it's just like you realize if you fuck this up, basically, excuse my French, if you mess this up, it's like, you only get one. This is like one of those things that you can only do once and do it right. If you're gonna do it right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, I felt that that's why she had such a hard job, is because she just, had the hardest job, having to, deal with that, and it's just all that nasty, yucky, icky, gross stuff. That's the easiest way to describe it. And I mean, she had the job that, nobody wants to talk about, like what she did. And like they deliberately didn't, during the show, they didn't show what she was doing. I mean, like they'd show the deceased person's feet or something, or like show like her going in to do it, or show her coming out afterwards, or showing her doing whatever afterwards, like talking about makeup or something. Like they never showed what she really quote unquote did all the time. Though like she'd be like standing there talking while she's embalming this person, and like they don't show the person at all, and it's like, like they show the face and then they do like that block, like they blur the person's face and stuff. And I'm like, oh. And it's like, it's just because that would probably gross out a lot of people. And, that's why I'm not talking about it here. It's just because I'm sure that there's somebody watching who's the kind of person that, the instant I start talking about what would happen, because I do know, because my father worked in a funeral home as a kid and he told me, because he had to help a few times with the embalming of people. I think there'd be people going, oh God, why did you tell me that? It's one of those kind of things. But anyway, that aside, one thing I did want to talk about, and this goes back to Emily and Melissa, the other two sisters. One of them during the run of the show got a divorce, or was going through a divorce. That's what it was. I just, and I got to thinking about that, and I thought, well, I wonder how they're all doing, because, I just wonder if that sister got through the divorce okay and how everything turned out, and the other thing I got to thinking about, I was like, I would love to watch the show again, and just to buy it on DVD, all 4 seasons, uninterrupted, kind of do like a True Blood kind of thing, like I mentioned in last video. Kind of get them all minus the commercials and stuff. I mean, because I know me for one, I would love to see all 4 seasons on DVD, like even in a 4-pack, or like individually sold and stuff, because with like updates on like everybody, like what they're doing, like what happened since the show ended and everything else, because I would like to see that. I really would. Because every once in a while, like I'll watch DVDs if I can't find anything worth watching on regular cable and stuff, because every once in a while you may have like 1,000 channels and there's not a darn thing worth watching. You're like, really? Let's turn it off. I mean, that's why I have a DVD collection. Is like, if my cable's out, which thank goodness Insight is good, much to their credit. The cable almost never goes out. I mean, it's went out like a couple of times recently, but that was weather related. But I mean, it's stuff like if like my cable was to go out for some odd reason, or we just couldn't find anything worth watching, this would be something we could watch on DVD, which is what I would like to be able to do. And it's just one of those things that how you get to thinking about it, and I'm sure people are wondering this. How you just get to thinking about, I would love to get that on DVD and watch it. That's why I'm naming this show here. So if anybody from A&E or the History Channel or whatever, because A&E and History Channel are affiliated with each other, really, I mean, I would love to get these 4 seasons on DVD so I can watch them, so I can have something else to watch in case, like I'd rather watch this than, be bored to death with like baseball and stuff, or bowling, or basketball, or football, because let's face it, folks, not everybody's into sports and whatever. Some of us actually do have shows that if we could watch them again, like even in reruns, we'd be thrilled. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here and talk about family plots and everything, and what a good TV show it was, and how just tripping that family was with the owners and everything, and how different things were back then. Well, anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'm sorry it took me a bit to come up with 2 movie reviews. Well, this one's not a movie review, it's about a TV show, but the last one was a movie review. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll have some more out for you soon, alright? Bye.